Today I'm introducing you to the Anycubic Cobra X. This 3D printer promises to be the best budget beginner 3D printer on the market. And that's exactly the question we want to answer today. I've prepared quite a bit. We're printing an exciting project today. And especially if you are a beginner, stay till the end because you're going to learn a lot. Let's briefly go over the features. So what exactly can this printer do? Let's start with the print volume. 260 by 260 by 260 millimeters. That's a solid cube, more than enough for most home projects. The hot end reaches up to 300 degrees and the heat bed up to 110 degrees. For beginners, there are many different materials in 3D printing, but most beginner-friendly materials you can print without any problems. It gets tricky when you look into more specific filaments like ABS or ASA. For those, you need a high ambient temperature, which you get from an enclosed printer. We get a standard 0.4 hardened steel nozzle. This is really cool because we can print materials like PLA CF or PETG CF. I know as a beginner it may sound a little bit complicated, but trust me, you want this feature and in the long run it's goated. What I really love, the printer has a 720p camera. It uses AI to automatically capture print failures and it can stop your printer. We can also connect the printer to the internet and then start our print projects directly from our computer. And then of course the highlight, the ACE Gen 2 multicolor system. That sounds pretty fancy. And it is, but more to that later. Let's start with assembling the printer. The printer comes in this well-packaged box and we start by lifting out all the parts. The great thing about this printer is that it's very light. Assembled, it weighs under 10 kilos. The assembly is super simple. We start by loosening these screws on the side, then we can already slide the gantry onto the lower part and secure it with screws. To make everything look nice, you can also clip these plastic covers on. To make sure everything gets power later, we flip the printer around and connect these cables here. On the side we attach the poop chute. It simply shoots away the filament waste that's created during printing. Then we click the filament spoolder on top. I first clipped them on flat, but then I noticed my mistake. And with that we're done. That was the assembly, so let's turn on the printer. Here we select language and connect the printer to the internet. At the end we run an automatic calibration. Our first print will be this little ship right here. It only took about 13 to 14 minutes. But now let's start with a real world example for why you need a 3D printer. I recently bought this drawer for my desk, but with a regular drawer it happens quickly that you just throw everything in there and it becomes super messy. That's why we're printing the so-called Gridfinity system. For beginners, you print this grid right here and then you can place these boxes on top, perfectly shaped for your objects. For example, I have this small vlogging camera and now I can place it in here perfectly. I also did this to my camera, batteries and a clip-on microphone. Unfortunately, there were no ready-made 3D models for those, so I quickly designed them myself. By the way, should I upload a video about 3D design? Feel free to write it in the comments and leave a follow. Anyway, everything worked out great and it looks amazing. Next, a friend asked me if I could print him some holders. I'm of course super nice, so we're doing it. And we're now using a different material, PETG. It's similar to PLA, but it's just on another level. It's like an upgrade for PLA. I'm using a fresh roll of sunloose PETG. But the print doesn't look optimal, so we have these little blobs right here. This is usually caused by moist filament. Almost every filament except PLA absorbs the moisture from the air. So at the beginning you don't really have to worry about this problem because you mostly print PLA. But with PETG it can cause us problems. So I quickly dried the filament and the second print looks much better. Here you can see the comparison. The printer can also do multicolor and that's what makes the printer so special. Because it uses a slightly different system. And normally in this price range you always have a device sitting on the side that handles that. Here it's different. The device is essentially built right into the printhead. This means we can switch colors faster. Anyway, I will spare you the technical details because in the end only the result matters. I printed this chicken in multiple colors. At first glance it looks great, but the colors blend into each other. But why? After every color change, the printer pumps a bit of filament through the nozzle to clean it. But in this case, it's simply not enough and some red filament stays in the nozzle. It's also worth noticing that with white, you see like everything. You can adjust this setting yourself, how much filament get purged. In the slicer, which is simply the program you use to start prints. There's a setting called flushing volumes and it's usually set to 0.7. You could, for example, set it to 1, but then the print will take longer and you need more filament. We've talked a lot about different filaments, but one is missing: TPU. That's a flexible plastic. And on the Anycubic website it's advertised that you can print with 68D TPU. The D stands for the hardness of the plastic. The thing is, it's not really a marketing lie, but it's an interesting choice of words. Normally hardness is measured with a different scale, not D. Here you can see it in this image. D68 is not really that flexible. So the bottom line, you won't really be able to print with flexible materials. That's a bit misleading from the website. The biggest competitor right now is the Bambolab A1. That costs 369 euros with multicolor. The Anycubic Cobra X as of today costs 289 euros with multicolor. But which printer should you get? It's not quite that simple. Bambolab printer have a better software and a larger community around it. With Anycubic you get a better multicolor system in return. The color change happens directly in the printhead, which is technically the most elegant solution. In the end, you can say you can't go wrong with ISA printer. So all in all, should you buy this printer? I have to say, for 289 euros, you get so much and can really get into the hobby well. Of course, you have to make a few compromises here and there. You won't be able to print ABS, ASA with this printer, and TPU will also be very difficult. But to try out the hobby for yourself, it's perfect. I've linked a printer for you below. By the way, if you're just starting out with 3D printing, then check out this video. And if you want to see more reviews, check this video out and subscribe to this channel.